Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Saba Show, and we are back for the week 2 finals predictions. We're going to be doing a bit of analysis as well from week 1, but I thought because there's only 2 games for this week, we're going to combine it together, and we'll be able to talk in depth about the upcoming games. So, yeah. But anyway, let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into this week's fixtures. On Friday night, we have the GWS Giants playing the Cats at 7:50 Australian Eastern Standard Time at Optus Stadium. And look, this fixture is very intriguing for a variety of reasons. The Cats haven't been at peak form for a very, very long time, or so it seems. And the Giants, they've managed to just keep on winning. And obviously, if they want to win a flag this year, they're going to have to continue doing that. Last time these two sides played each other, the Giants got up against the Cats in an away fixture as well. So, there's all signs pointing towards a Giants upset here. I mean, could you really call it an upset based on, recent form? I'm not too sure. But look, let's just touch on Geelong. They played Port Adelaide, obviously, and got absolutely killed by them. Tom Stewart noticeably is a big miss, and we all expected it, but he's so crucial to their game plan because, we've talked about this in past episodes on the recap. He's so crucial to them because he takes the intercept mark, they do a little switch kick, and then they're able to press forward. They do a lot of that. They're very reliable on that type of game plan. But obviously you remove Stewart, you remove the intercept mark, and then, where the source is for that play, it's cut off. And then you've got to find an alternative. And they haven't found that alternative yet, which is really, really worrying for them, going into, what is a very dangerous GWS side when they're switched on. The Cats, they were making some really uncharacteristic errors. Port Adelaide, they were overwhelming with their pressure. Willem Drew had a very good night. I think he had 10 tackles or something like that. He's renowned for that, but, that was way up than usual numbers. Look, yeah, just with the Cats, Dangerfield had a pretty much a stinker. Gary Rowan always goes missing in finals, and, the other night was no exception. It's very worrying. They had to do that switch where, in order to get Rowan into the game, they had to put him at half-back, and he was taking the kick-ins. Sam Menegola went forward. The Alira matchup was just a disaster. No one held him accountable, so he was just able to run off and, do what he pretty much wanted for the entire game. Yeah, there was no goal-scoring prowess either. They could never get it past halfway because the Port Adelaide backline was just so solid. Yeah, it's very worrying for them because they were only able to kick, I believe, 5 goals or 6 goals. And, a couple of those were from them taking the game on. Gary Rowan kicked a couple torpedoes down the spine, down the middle. And, it sort of resulted in something, like it got them to the other end of the field. But obviously too little too late. So maybe they need to incorporate a bit more attack, but obviously that's not them. So this is where it's going to be very difficult for Geelong to, combat the problems they have because they're so set on one game plan that, it's very hard to get out of it. But then again, the name of finals is being able to make adjustments, especially with good sides being able to work you out. And we look at the GWS Giants, this win, it could have gone either way. GWS had their opportunities, Sydney had their opportunities, but ultimately, it was that Toby Green bump on the wing that, they were able to gain possession from that and pretty much seal the game, ice it. But they were under pressure, under absolute siege. They were doing a long kick down the line for pretty much the entirety of the last quarter that wasn't working out for them. But Toby Green, speaking of which, he's not going to be playing next week or this week. There's no chance. I can't see why some experts believe that, it wasn't intentional. It was pretty intentional, pretty damn clear. He's walked straight. He could have gone around. He didn't even need to be in the vicinity. And he's made contact. It wasn't necessary, so he's going to get weeks when I think Tom Hawkins got a week for touching an umpire. So like just a little tap. So yeah, it's not looking good for him. Isaac Cumming also had an injury. It's going to be difficult to see him playing this week. He's been very good for the majority of the season, so he's going to be a big loss on a halfback if he can't get up. Just touching on Sydney a little bit, Kennedy and Mills, huge outs. The engine room was, they stood up pretty well anyway, but it was visible that they were missing those two. There was a lot of, every 5 seconds the camera was going on to Buddy because, 1,000 goals and whatnot, but we're going to have to wait till next year. And I'm actually happy for that because I wanted to see him kick 1,000 and fans being able to run on the ground. Let's hope that the climate of, the COVID climate, it's going to allow us, allow fans to be able to run on the ground to celebrate that big moment, because it hasn't happened since '08 when Buddy kicked 100 goals. So, just for the Swans, great year from them. The expectation was never to make finals, and the fact they made finals and were, a bit of conversion off from making the semi-finals, it's really positive for them. So you'd think they'll come back much stronger next year, and you'd think that they can go much further. This game was just absolutely brilliant. Had me on the edge of my seat. Jesse Hogan was brilliant, especially in that third quarter. He should have finished off a couple set shots, but regardless, was providing those opportunities. And, those two behinds that he got in the third quarter have, contributed to the win. If he doesn't kick those behinds, he doesn't take those marks, they're not winning the game. So that was the little, that was the decisive factor in all this. Stephen Cornelio did some really good things. He hasn't really been on the ball. He doesn't get a lot of the footy since his return from injury, but he's doing the little things for his teammates. There were a couple of times where he would put on a shepherd, so the outnumber could arrive and GWS could win it. There was one play where he blocked Jesse Hogan's opponent, so Jesse Hogan could take a mark, and I think that was the one that he kicked. He converted in that third quarter. So, just simple things like that. Tom Green, he had a busted up arm and he still played the game out. You could argue that it was a pretty stupid idea to do that because it was essentially 18 on 17. But in saying that, the courage, that's what you want. You want some buy-in from your players, and that's playing for the jumper. The mummy in, that was huge for them. He was getting in a little bit of trouble. Just stupid free kicks given away by him. But in saying that, he's just crucial to their success in the midfield, and he's going to have to play pretty much every week that the Giants are in. So he's going to be a crucial factor. I think he could be very important in the ruck this week as well. But Reece Stanley may run him off the mark, get around the ground and have an impact. So they've got to be careful with that. Maybe a second ruckman could work, but nothing has convinced me by Geelong in the last few weeks that they're going to win this one. I'm going to say Giants will win on the basis that, last time Toby Green was out, they were able to counter that issue, get Taranto up forward. So they have the flexibility and capability to do that. There's no Tom Stewart, so I'm not sure who's going to go to Jesse Hogan. Lockie Henderson had plenty of problems with Charlie Dixon. So look, I've got no confidence that Geelong will win this one. They've probably got the upper hand with Toby Green going out, because Toby Green probably was the major factor in them winning this one alongside Hogan. But look, in saying that, I think the Giants, they've proven that they can counter, the injury problem and win games, as shown in their last fixture that they played Geelong. So, yeah, I'm convinced that the Giants, they've done it once against Geelong away from home. They can do it again. So I'm going to tip an upset. Could you call it an upset? I don't know. But I'm tipping the Giants to win this one in what is going to be a very close, thrilling contest. Now we move to what is the more intriguing fixture. Some people are saying the Lions don't stand a chance in this one. It is the Bulldogs and the Lions. We don't know when they're playing. But it will be Saturday. But regardless, look, the Lions, big out for them. Daniel McStay, concussion, very nasty incident that. But he will not be playing this week. And look, they've already had to face problems without Hipwood, and now they've got to face problems without McStay. It's very noticeable that Tom Fullerton, who was the replacement for Hipwood, he has not made an impact at all He's the second ruckman, but whether he's going to pitch in with like a 3-goal performance this week, it's going to be very tough to see him doing that. I mean, the Lions, they just never got going. Their game plan is accustomed to, I mean, we've said this in past weeks, they bomb it forward and it's really a surge mentality. They pressure, they come up the ground and pretty much block it off from coming back the other way with their pressure. But look, this game, I mean, you could say that it wasn't suited to the forwards before the game, and then McStay went out, so it was even more difficult for Brisbane. But the D's had a field day in this one, defensively. It favoured defenders, the conditions. It was always going to be difficult to score, but when Brisbane's game plan is bombing it forward, they're the lowest, I think, inside 50 efficiency side because they always have the ball down their end. It's always going to be a problem when you're versing the D's because of Lever and May. Those two were just rock solid. And they were never able to counter that. You kick it high, you kick it long, and especially with no key forwards to make these guys accountable, Lever and May were able to do whatever they wanted. One positive out of this game was Charlie Cameron was absolutely on fire, so he's going to have another big game. 4 or 5 goals from him will get the job done against the Bulldogs. I think the D's played the conditions much, much better. We said the Lions, they're a low efficiency kicking side, that bombed the ball forward, but the D's, they were able to lower their eyes, and, hit the target from, to someone that was like situated 40 to 45 meters out from goal. And then when it went deeper, the Lions defenders looked a bit off. Harris Andrews was rusty. So when the ball hit the deck, the D's looked very dangerous there as well. So there was pretty much no weakness, when it went forward. The keys were getting involved and the smalls were getting involved. So, and I have said in past weeks that, with this Hipwood out, it's going to be even more reliant on the Lions midfielders hitting the scoreboard, and they weren't able to do that this time round, because usually they press in that surge game plan, but because the D's were always intercepting it, there was no chance for the ball to hit ground, and they can have an impact, or they weren't even getting it deep, They weren't even running it up. They were bombing it because of the pressure. So they were never able to have an impact further up the field, which could allow them to have an involvement on the scoreboard. And then we talk about the Dogs. The Dogs, I'm still not sold on them at all. Essendon, this game was not suited to their conditions. They're very similar to Brisbane with their scoring, their attacking game style. But yeah, this was just... I mean, the Dogs, they had a pretty ordinary first half. They left Essendon in the game, probably very lucky to not be down at halftime. But then they just, put their foot on the gas and made sure of it in the second half. They were just hungrier. They're a very contested side, so the conditions really suited them. Libba, McRae, and they've got a lot of ball users as well that could really help. I think something that Essendon missed out on was Nick Hind, obviously. His pace off halfback, the rebound is so valuable, and especially when territory is so important in the rain, they really missed that, because that would have allowed them to gain a bit more territory. I mean, they didn't kick a goal in the second half, so you needed someone like a Nick Hind to break the lines and, have an impact, help them get in the forward line and lock it in there. The Dogs, I think it was a masterstroke that they didn't bring in Stephen Martin. Josh Shackey had a very big impact, 2 goals from him. Cody Waitman had 4. All 4 were from free kicks. I think some of them were fine. Some of them were line ball or probably not there. I mean, the umps couldn't put the whistle away in this one. There were some very questionable calls, but that was pretty much the entirety of the day. So at least you could say there was consistency. I mean, the Dogs, they got this job done in the second half off the back of one half, but, one half isn't going to do the job. I mean, this game is going to be at the Gabba, but look, if it's humid, I predict the Lions to win this one. If it's hot, if it's clean, if it's clear, the Lions are winning this game. And I'll tell you why, because every time they play at home, it is a fortress. They know how to play that ground. They've got the ability to score 120 points at their home ground, with their attacking game style. It will work. They're not playing a Melbourne defense. But in saying that, if it's raining, if it's pissing down, I back the Dogs in to win. Because we saw across both of their games on the weekend that the Dogs can play the wet weather game and the Lions can't. The Lions, I mean, they beat Fremantle at Optus in the rain, a bit of time ago. But I'm convinced the Lions can't play the wet properly, or well enough. I think the Dogs are just... I think it's a matter of fact that the Bulldogs are better, in terms of their contested footy style, game plan, their pressure. I think it's just better catered to them. So look, I think this is a really line ball prediction. I'm not sold on the Bulldogs. I'm more confident that the Lions will get up in this game. But don't be surprised if it's not ideal conditions. I think the Dogs have the potential to get up in this one. And before we leave, I think I'm just going to make the comment right now that you probably could say that the D's and the Power are favourites. Common sense, given that they both won their fixtures and they're in the prelims. But look, I think based on... the D's are looking pretty good. They don't look like they have any weaknesses. They've still got Hibberd, Hunt, Melksham, all players that are worthy of playing in your best 22. They're sitting on the side, behind the likes of Jake Bowie. He's been very good. Debuted probably 4 weeks ago, and look at him, he's playing finals. And then, the Power, they look pretty good. They're hoping Fantasia will get up. He probably will. He's got the week off. But they look like a pretty formidable side too. I think that could be a grand final. And then obviously there'll be plenty of discussion around how the D's will, deal with the Power tall forward line. And then on the contrary, how can the Power pick apart the very few flaws that the D's have? Anyway, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to smash a like. And, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I will engage in your conversation. Anyway, that is all from me. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.